Our third show in 3 weeks, bringing you our continued coverage of the reboot of GXCC racing out in Radium. The pro bikes had their taste of the glory, as did the quads and the juniors. This show focuses in on our support classes, the bread and butter of GXCC racing. This show will be the Pro-Am OR1, 2, 3 and WOW class. First out the gates on the flag drop was the Pro-Am OR1s. The story of this season has been all about the 328 of Dennis van der Merwe. He has been the most consistent rider, bringing home those big wins and looks good for points come the end of the season. He slotted himself nicely into a number 2 spot and came out not in bad shape as well. He headed towards the pins and he was going to be an absolute ripper in the early stages, but no one was faster coming over the logs than George Della Rosa. Coming out the gate, the rocket ship that is Jean Neerbuer once again tasted clear air. He was going to have to fight hard though, because Leon Kroos had made the bold move to step down from the OR2 Pros into the Pro-Ams, and the Yamaha man was going to be pressure early on. The Beast came out of the hole nicely into the number 3 spot. Elaine de Toy was going to be banging there, as well as Dion van der Merwe, who very nearly tossed his cookies early on up and over the logs. Back on the gate, and the third flag drop was a little bit of a wild whiskey goon ride coming out of Quinton Venter, and that allowed the 2 KTM lads of Brendan Berger and Nathan Godridge to get a little bit of land between themselves and the rest of the chasers. It was going to be interesting to see who would be able to hang on to this one. We had a returning Rian Prinsloo. He was the unknown factor here, now running in the Vans Racing colours, but really good numbers coming in, and an even split between the goons going into the chicken run and the guys going up and over the logs. The WOW class, always the unknown factor. Dwayne Brewer actually tasted the whole shot until CJ Faree went out the front door on the big Honda. He rolled the dice and he most certainly paid the price. One of only 2 riders to go for the logs, the rest going chicken running and letting the race come to them. The Honda would get up though, and we'll see how he went in the WOWs. Out on track, just 7 finishers making the cut. A couple of riders fading out early in the race and not able to complete 1 lap. That's just how tough the terrain was out here at Radium. The W125 of Van Sale Jonk did a stellar job. Great to see Van Sale coming on and actually finding some form. Ivan Stroh been catching up with this guy in the pits. He's really developing his style. Got a really cool shape on the bike, holds himself nice and high. He'll have battled in the sand. Not many people have got any sand riding experience, and Radium does punish you hard. The man that pulled the big hole shot, Brewer, actually got himself up into a number 5 spot as well, so that was interesting to see that he hadn't faded out too far off the back door. But the guys that really challenged and got themselves a little bit further up the road were going to be the ones to watch out and would be credited with some good numbers. Jaco Smith on the W300 got a number 4 spot. Ivor Goos got himself up into a number 3, which meant we had some good tasty riders out front. One of the few riders that did go for the big logs was Anastasio Zahos. We saw him running good numbers at rounds 1 and 2 of the GXCCs, and he didn't let us down here. He's going to be an odds-on threat for the championship as well. But up the road was the Honda. Yes, the guy that went out the front door in spectacular fashion, recovered and absolutely ripped the bars off the little Honda. The 250 was absolutely singing, and even though he had to smash his way through the bushes without any handguards, he got the job done and delivered his first win of the season. I tell you what, a star is born here, and that star is CJ Faree, all the way to the flag. What a story. Damage on the bike, and he still got the big win. Here's confirmation of Faree ahead of Zahos. Goos, nice run for him in the number 3 spot ahead of Smitty, Brewer, Stroh and Jonk. Let's see what was happening out on the track then in the Pro-Am OR3s. Dean Faree cracked a magical top 10, and this was a stacked gate as well. The 250s always going to be super busy. You can see Taki Bodjodges in the background there, meaning these guys got into the lappers nice and early. Quinton Venter, who looked strong in the early running, unfortunately looked like he had a mechanical late on in the race. He would have definitely challenged for a top 5, and eventually he did score enough laps in the back to be able to tag a number 9 ride. Ernst Malan was up the road just ahead of him on the 30X. He got into a number 8 position as he muscled his way around the difficult, tight testing, whooped out and gnarly terrain that was Radium. it was always going to be a mini desert. In fact, it was probably going to feel like a full race desert for a lot of these riders. Butzer Henning got a nice job going there in the 7th spot, just one position off the magical top 6. Remember, it is podium placings all the way up to 6th place. Brendan Berger, who got the pin, unfortunately couldn't hang on to it. He would fade down backwards, but was credited with a number 6 ride. Aggressive riding style coming out of him as well. Nathan Godric, the man that went out the pole with him, and they would be dicing it out together as well. Unfortunately, they too faded backwards. Rian Prinsloo showed his form, one of the older dudes on the 250 gate, and he was just using this as a dust-off event. Normally, we would see Prinsloo on the pros, but it's been an in and out season for him, so he was deciding to err on the side of caution. He still got a number 4 ride in his new colors from Vans Racing. Stoffel Berger showed true style as well, definitely a bit of a desert rat, liked the gnarly, dusty, whooped out, sandy terrain, and it wasn't slowing him down one little bit. The W88 of Jonas Janssen got himself up into a 2 spot, which meant we were going to have a new winner on the season, and it's lovely to say that as well. 2 rounds in, and this being round number 3, you can just see it. Enjoy the show that is Stefan Smit as he took the Yamaha all the way to the tippy top step and tagged 1st place at Radium to win out in the OR3 Pro-Ams. The style just shows what he's got. It was all about corner speed, railing the turns, and not bogging down. Yami hits the front. Good job, Smitty. Confirmation then of the riders. Fari, Fencer, Milan, Henning, Berger, Godrich, lose some points here as well. Prinsloo, Berger, Janssen, and Smit on the top step in the GXCC OR3 Pro-Ams here at Radium. Pro-Am OR2s is a huge story. This was one of the big ones. The early part of the season, racing on the pro gate and often actually going out and getting the whole shot. Leon Goos decided to slot himself back down into the Pro-Ams to see what he could do. A little bit of late race fade saw him drop down into a number 10 position. The smoker really started to breathe hard, and overheating issues was a story for the Yamaha man late on in the race. Johan Ritchie on the C699 got the job done, and it's so funny when you put a cameraman on the outside of a corner. Look where you go. Yep, that's exactly what you do. Go give our cameraman a big hug. Peter Jourdan did a good job to get himself up into a number 8. Remember, these guys were majority running the 350s. The Beast, Andrew Beeston, who stepped off his big Kawasaki 450 just a season and a half back, gelling nicely now with the KTM 350. He'll have loved this as well. It was all whooped out a la motocross style, just what Andy Pandy likes to ride. Lincoln Lutz on the C550 did a nice job. He was the first of the official podium finishers to get himself up into a number 6 ride. And then it was the turn of Big Meg, Miguel da Silva on the 394, who has been absolutely charging the last couple of seasons. He'll have probably expected to run a top 3 this time around, but the standard of the Pro-Am gate has improved leaps and bounds. 2020 will give us some of our fastest riders out there. Mornay Kutzer charged his way on the 12 up into a number 4 spot. Even though he couldn't stand up through the whoops, and not many people could come the end of lap number 2, he still was tougher and faster than most of the riders. Elaine Dutoy, who was amazed at his form in the early part of the season, didn't slow down one bit. Looked like he even got skinnier and leaner throughout the off-season. His style is so Wayne Farmer, it is unbelievable, and the results are starting to shadow and echo what his mentor shows him. Elaine Dutoy gets his highest finish ever with a number 3 spot. Second this time around, Dion van der Merwe. It's been a number 2 the whole way through the season. He has only been beaten on the tour so far by one man, and unfortunately this time around, for Dion, it was that same man once again. The only rider in the Pro-Am gate at this stage of the season, with 2 rounds still to go after Radium, John Neerbuer, saw clear air until he got into the lap as it was. It's 3 for 3 for the C911. Rubine Racing are charging hard. This kid is an absolute flyer, and I'd like to see him move up into the pro category for next season. His lap times show that he would easily run a top 10 in the pro OR2s. Confirmation of Neerbuer's win ahead of van der Merwe and Dutoy, with Kutzer and De Silva rounding out the top 5. Lincoln Lutz is at number 6 with the Beast in 7, Jourdan in 8, Ritchie in 9, and Leon Goos with his unfortunate overheating problems down in number 10. Last gate we review then, and it is the Big Bangers. Very strong field. Most of the riders running out of a 450, 500 or a 300 smoker. Very interesting choice of machinery for riders across the board. Albertine Pienaar got a number 10. The first of the single digits was the 9 spot coming in from Anthony Lotter, who did a very good job to run the numbers here as well. Remember, this is the exact same track that the pros were running, and the guys would have seen the pros once, possibly twice, while they were out there on the course. Etienne Krailing in a number 8 spot did a nice job to stay ahead of some tasty riders. Nick Wells, who has been really strong, and he'd have hoped for another podium. He was one position off the podium this time around, but still in good shape for the championship. He was very consistent in the early part of the season, and that's going to pay dividends come the end. Hilton de Bruyn got a number 6 ride. For Hilt, that's his best ride on the season to date, and he'll try and use Radium as a springboard going into the final 2 rounds of the year. The dice for the number 5 spot was a tense one. Jaco Jens van Rensburg did the big chase down to manage to squeak out a number 5, but he was bested on the day by Dale Campbell, who came charging through the pack. Didn't have the best gait, but was solid and consistent to tag a number 4. So who are the magical riders running inside of the top 3? Well, you might recognize this rider's riding style. You cannot miss it. George De La Rosa, one of the most aggressive riders, just bangs every single corner and every single turn, loves the smoker, has committed since the beginning of the season to run on the 300, now running in the Vans racing colors with full support as well. Highest finish on the tour for George De La Rosa. Championship leader Dennis van der Merwe looks like he is playing the long game. Van der Merwe was rock solid the whole way through the day. Wasn't too flustered, let a couple of riders get out ahead of him, namely this man, the C98 of Jaco Sanders, who is super aggressive as George De La Rosa, but not as smooth as well, but aggressive nonetheless, able to hang on to his big machine and bring it all the way to the flag to see victory at Radium. Sanders confirms his win in the OR1 Pro-Ams ahead of Van der Merwe and De La Rosa. Campbell, Janssen van Rensburg, de Bruyn, Wells, Krailing, Lotter and Pienaar round out your top 10. That was the show and the highlights and the third and final installment from Radium. We guys hope you enjoyed all of the action brought to you across the board, and in particular this show for the support classes. We look forward to being on the line with you once again when the tour rolls around on the 31st of October. Racemere built. We'll be on the line, we'll see you there, and we'll keep filming if you keep riding. As always, all this action was proudly brought to you by AMP CNC Academy in association with SPX Logistics.